This is the Little Moments Count radio podcast, created in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. Each episode, you'll hear interviews with early childhood experts on how to support the important brain development that takes place in the first 1,000 days of life, just through little moments every day. Learn more at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.
And good morning, Twin Cities. This is Andrea, and I am here with the narrative on KRSM Radio, where we amplify the voices, stories, cultures, and conversations that are happening in your neighborhood. And I am so happy with our guests today. Today we are doing our Little Moments Count segment in partnership with them. Little Moments Count is a statewide collaborative focused on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life. Nearly 80% of brain growth happens in the first 1,000 days, and small moments of interaction like talking, playing, reading, and singing help create the pathways that build a child's brain during this early stage of life. For more information, you can visit littlemomentscount.org. Today's guest is the Senior Director of Leadership, Dr. Nicole Evans at Embracing Equity. And Dr. Nicole Evans embodies a lifelong passion for education shaped by her upbringing in the home of an esteemed educator. From a young age, she eagerly shadowed her role model and father, spending countless hours in his classrooms. With an impressive 28-year career in education, Dr. Evans has excelled in various roles, including teacher, assistant principal, and most notably as the executive director of urban education at a prominent HBCU. I love this so much. In her capacity as the senior director of leadership, Dr. Evans spearheads Embracing Equity's esteemed year-long leadership residency program. Her guidance and expertise empower emerging leaders to navigate the complexities of today's educational landscape while fostering an unwavering commitment to anti-racism. Through this transformative initiative, Dr. Evans facilitates the transition of principles into tangible actions, ensuring that organizations and leaders authentically embrace anti-racist practices. So I just want to welcome you to the narrative, Dr. Evans. How you doing today?
Good morning, Andrea in Minnesota. Super excited to be here this morning.
My fellow Midwesterner, right?
Yes. Just 2 states down. I'm in St. Louis. Yes.
And I love St. Louis. I love the Arch. I've been there before. Y'all got good food, good barbecue too. I ain't gonna lie.
Yes.
What HBCU were you at? Were you teaching at?
Actually, Harris-Stowe State University, which is here in St. Louis. It is one of 2 in Missouri. And so, right here in St. Louis, I'm a hometown girl. And so I'm an alum of Harris-Stowe State University as well.
I love
and
it.
So began to work in the education department there. Yeah.
Wow. And just welcome. I thank you for being here, being on Little Moments Count. And I'm just really excited to just have you on and learning about your organization and the great work that you do with our young people. We always have questions that we ask everyone here for our Little Moments Count guest. And we're just wondering, can you just please explain the brain science about 80% of a child's brain architecture developing in those first 3 years of life?
Okay, just really simply put, the first 3 years of life are critical for brain development because that's when the brain grows most rapidly, okay? By age 3, as you said, 80% of a child's brain's architecture is formed. During that time, those first 1,000 days, the brain is highly adaptable. And here's when it forms connections known as synapses at a rapid pace. These connections are shaped by a child's experiences and interactions in the environment. That's why it's critical about the things that you do during that time, right? Positive interactions such as responsive caregiving, those things stimulate the brain and help to strengthen those connections of the synapses. I'm doing this. They can't see me. You can. Synapses are like if you took your 5 fingers on both hands and spread them out, and synapses are when they are coming together. They're making connections and they're formed by those initial interactions. And those are the foundations for all future learning, future behavior, and actually even future health.
They are. I was even thinking about people who in older life, when you have strokes, like those are the things that connect back together as you learn how to walk and talk again. If you were unfortunately would have a stroke, those are the things that come back together, those neural pathways where you relearn how to do those things. They're so important lifelong, for your brain health. And when I was watching you do that, I was like, well, maybe it's like a pathway or a roadway,
Yes.
That's what I was envisioning as you did that, Dr. Evans. I love that explanation. What can parents do to just, you kind of touched on it a bit, but like to maximize that brain development? Because I feel like sometimes we feel like we need to buy the most expensive, most technology type things, or sometimes even like I feel like in our communities, we feel like we don't have those tools to help our children. You know what I mean? Like we feel like we can't do it. And that's just not true, is it? We have it. We are the way, right?
Yes, we are. And what I will say, parents and caregivers, I'm going to say caregivers. I know for my granddaughter, I am really, really present in her life and in her growing, right? We say this is how we're growing you, not raising you, right? We raise livestock, we grow children, right? So parents can play a crucial role in maximizing their children's brain development through simple, just what you alluded to, everyday activities, reading, talking, no baby talk, right? Because their brain is forming. They want to hear you talking as if you expect them to talk. Singing and just playing, get down there with them. Playing with their child are all powerful ways to stimulate brain growth. When parents and caregivers engage in these activities, they're not only bonding with their child, but also helping to build the brain's architecture. They're having those synapses make those connections, coming closer together, right? For example, reading to a child helps develop language skills. Mm-hmm. Talking with them enhances their vocabulary. Singing nurtures their auditory skills and rhythm. And playing encourages creativity and problem solving. These interactions provide the stimulation that young brains need to develop strong, healthy connections, which, by the way, these interactions, reading, talking, singing, should start when the child is in the womb.
Wow.
Start then.
Wow. So you can be even saying, hey, I'm going to go get some food. I'm going to go get this beautiful sandwich. We're going to eat it, baby, and rub your tummy and talk to the baby in the womb.
All of that.
Yeah.
All of that. Your voice as a parent they hear that all the time. Mm-hmm. So it continues to make that connection. And then others talk to the belly, right? All of that, all of those things are important for developing their brain, honestly. Yeah.
Cute. Too cute. So as a child goes into kindergarten, are there benefits that you know of that our youth are experiencing if you're able to, keep on that pathway of that talking and that singing and play in those first 1,000 days?
Yeah, absolutely. Research and studies show us that children who receive rich interactive experiences. Again, you don't have to have a lot of money and buy all these toys. It's the interactive experiences. Children who receive that in their early years are generally better prepared for kindergarten. Mm. They tend to have better language skills, a larger vocabulary, right? Because we're not doing the baby talk. We're talking about everything, though. Here's what I'm doing. Even, okay, baby, I'm changing your diaper. Yeah, here we go. Oh, look at that. Like all of those things, just really talking because they are taking all of that in, right? It also leads to stronger social skills, how we interact with one another. They're more likely to be curious, motivated learners who can pay attention because you're having these long conversations, right? It doesn't have to be long, but conversations. They can follow instructions better and interact positively with their peers and teachers. This strong foundation can lead to greater success in the classrooms as children who start school ready to learn. That's what we're getting you ready to learn. They're more likely to continue on a positive educational trajectory.
Yeah. And I think one thing I'm really learning as I do these calls and learn from educators like you, Dr. Evans, is playing really teaches you how to like take turns, how to really
Yes.
work in society in a way that I'm finding is very, very interesting. You know, you learn
Absolutely.
rules in a way, or just guidelines on how to be even like a good friend, how to like wait your turn when people get on the subway or whatever. Like it just
All of
things,
that.
little things that really
All of that.
matter. And I find that very interesting. Some things that I never ever thought about in my early journey as a parent. But yeah, it really can go far. And I find that just fascinating.
It's so amazing. And the difference for me when I was raised coming up, right, in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, you did what your parents told you to do because they told you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're saying for these children now, explain the why.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to do this, or we're not going to do that. We're keeping you safe. We don't want any, like, tell children why. Explain it because, again, you're helping them with their critical thinking. So, very different. That language is so important.
Yeah, it is. And you do see like, why?
Yes, and you're like, okay.
And that
And
was
that's
one.
their critical skills, right? You're like, all right, I gotta talk about this. But if you're in the habit of just explaining things as you go, you're raising their curiosity, you're increasing their learning. They're like, oh, got it. I understand the why. I understand the process. What you're encouraging is that critical thinking so that our children, they have so many things right at their fingertips so early. You're actually encouraging them to slow down and think it through.
I love that so much. Let's take our first station break because I want to get more into what you're doing at Embracing Equity there in St. Louis. And I think that would be a good way to just kind of segue into that. So we are with Dr. Nicole Evans, the Senior Director of Leadership at Embracing Equity. And we're just going to take a quick little break here and be back with her. So one moment. Welcome back to The Narrative here on KRSM, where we amplify the voices, stories, cultures, and conversations that are happening in our neighborhood. I am sitting here with Dr. Nicole Evans, the Senior Director of Leadership at Embracing Equity. We're doing our Little Moments Count segment. And if you don't know about Little Moments Count, it's a statewide collaborative focused on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of children's lives. And you're with Embracing Equity. You are in St. Louis, and I know that you've had such a great, diverse career in education, Dr. Evans, including your role as a principal at a pre-K to 8th grade Montessori school. And I just want to know about your experiences in this setting, and how did they shape your understanding of the importance of the first 1,000 days, and just how do you think things have changed now, like from when you first started to now?
Yes. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
but here's what I will say. The Montessori theory really, so I want to, let me go back and say something.
Yes.
What was really interesting and wonderful for me, that we had an identity as a Montessori A-bar school, anti-bias, anti-racist. Okay. So at that school, we merged the two, which was super, super exciting. And I can talk about that. The Montessori theory has been around for over 100 years, right? And so what I love about the Montessori theory is about following the child, right? It's not a free school. The child doesn't get to do what they want to do, right? That's not what it is. That's a different that's a thing, but it's not Montessori, right? But for me, the combination of following the child and really thinking about the stages of development, what is a child ready for, right? And so some people say, oh, we don't want to talk about race and things like that at early childhood. Actually, the brain shows us that those children are ready. You know how people say, oh, the kids say the darndest things. They said something. I didn't know how to address that. They said, oh, look, mommy, her skin is brown. What is that? Is that dirt? Right? Children are asking the critical questions because our brain also is made that way. Our brain is made to look for patterns, to look for things that, what does it mean when someone looks this way? What does it mean when someone, oh, you have different hair? Our brain is made for, especially at a young age, to notice these things and call them out. And so our jobs as educators, as parents, as caregivers is not to squash that curiosity, but to give them accurate information about those type of things, right? Montessori says the work of the hand is the work of the mind, right? So in Montessori, we get their hands involved. The materials are important. So I bring that up to say, okay, so what does that mean? So, in a typical classroom, you may think about this, right? I'm just going to give a quick example where you might have little teddy bears as you're using to help children count, right? All right, here, give me 10 teddy bears, right? They're learning how to count, those kind of things, right? So when we merge Montessori and learning, I just gave a typical example of learning that would happen in any early childhood classroom, right?
Yeah.
So instead of that, or in addition to the teddy bears, maybe we bring in cowrie beads as use those as counters. So now you have a lesson around cowrie beads and how they come from Africa and the culture that is associated with it, right? So when you think about how do we do this, how do we merge the Montessori or just early childhood period, what are ways that we can have children have a window, a mirror, and a sliding door, right? A window is, how do I look out and see cultures that are different than mine? Most important for children of the global majority. Now, you notice that. I'm going to stop. I didn't say minority children. No. I didn't even say BIPOC, which BIPOC is acceptable. I use BIPOC often. But I'm pausing to say children of the global majority. Let's do some truth telling.
That part.
Okay? So for children of the global majority, it's equally as important to see a mirror. Where is my culture reflected in the classroom?
Yeah.
Every single day. And then the sliding doors is, what experiences am I coming to? Not just a mirror to see me. How do I connect with other people? How do I have experiences with other cultures that are not mine, right? So that really was the beautiful, beautiful time that I spent there in looking for ways to include that. Of course, we include good literature. Just bringing up a book, All the Colors We Are, the story of how we get our skin color.
Yes.
So we go beyond saying, oh, brown skin is beautiful. That book really talks about how the skin tones are influenced by melanin, where our ancestors are from, and the sun, how the sun plays a role in your skin tones. So that book doesn't really necessarily get into race, but it talks about why we have different skin tones, right? Oh, I have more melanin than you do, right? Right? Scientific, accurate, truth-telling, and age-appropriate for because they're going to be asking those questions anyway. They're going to be putting their skin next to yours like, hey, why does your skin look like that and mine looks like this? Children will be answering those. Also, other things beyond skin tones, Bodies Are Cool. That's a book by Tyler Fetter. It just accepts that everybody may not be super thin, and there are some round bodies and soft bodies. And so those things, Love Makes a Family, that's a book. It talks about different family structures, whether there's 2-parent homes, 1-parent home, single mom, children being grown, by their grandparents, such as my granddaughter, right?
Yeah.
Love makes a family. So those are just, there are so many more books and resources, but really thinking about what books are on our shelves. What are we reading to our children? How are we inviting families in to talk about their cultures and family structures? That makes sense.
It does. And I love what you're saying about a window and mirror and a sliding door. Just because it seems like those are so much more easier to open. And I feel like just even thinking about my experience of being like the only Black child in schools at times, growing up here in Minnesota, and like having experiences of people, other students and my peers pointing out things about me, and either the educator putting it under the rug, or even just punishing those people, or even just silencing me, rather than using it as a teachable moment. And I know things have changed now. I'm kind of wondering, in your experience, what are the key barriers that prevent educational leaders from fully integrating those DEI into like early childhood programs? Like, what do you think are those barriers? Is it fear, or is it just?
Yeah, I was going to say the number one barrier is fear.
Okay.
So fear, and this is critical, lack of understanding your own socialization as the adults. And so the work, and I know we're going to get into this later, the work that I do with Embracing Equity is about adult work, right? It is adult work in service of the children. In service of the children. We work mainly, with educational institutions, nonprofits that are supporting them. Because if the adults are not unpacking what they need to unpack, the children will not benefit. So fear and lack of really understanding who you are. The research also tells us that most educators are white. In the early childhood, right? And period, actually. So if you don't know who you are as a white person, like when you say, oh, you're white, they're like, well, yeah, like that's known. No, you need to understand, what does that mean? How have you been socialized, right? Yeah. And how have other people been socialized, right? It's not what many people think is, oh, everybody else and white is the norm. No. There's a culture of what it means to be white. And so we do a lot of work to unpack that. What does that mean? And what are we going to do with the way that we've been socialized? And there are so many other social identities other than race, gender, religion, ethnicity. All of those things play a part to how we are all socialized. So the main barriers are fear and lack of understanding of who we are as an adults, because we got to share that too as we're creating an inclusive environment in our schools.
And that kind of brings me to my next question, because like, what role will families and what role do families and communities play in supporting DEI during early childhood, and how can they contribute to the systemic changes needed for all children to thrive?
So I'm going to start by making this announcement, which people have heard, but I want everybody to hear. Education is everybody's business.
Okay.
It's
Tell them, Dr. Evans. Say it again for them.
Education is everybody's business. Mm-hmm. Whether you have a little one in school or a young one, it's your business, because guess what? These are the folks who are going to show up to work at your organizations. Mm-hmm. And you want to ensure, right, that they are folks who are, have a very good viewpoint of other people, right? You want folks who are anti-biased, anti-racist, who understand that, folks who can be collaborative, folks who can understand, who can be understanding and listen, and not just going through like, okay, I'm getting a job done. Can I collaborate with others, right? That starts early childhood. Remember, we talked about how to get along with others, how to socialize, how to communicate with other people, right? So it's everybody's business. So it's our business to, if you are a parent and the classroom teacher is saying, hey, you celebrate this culture, can you come in and share with us that cultural celebration that you have, so that we can expand our minds and that we can be more understanding and accepting, not tolerant. Listen, I tolerate broccoli, but I'm going to turn my nose up every time I eat it, unless it's smothered in cheese, right? Right?
Yeah. I
So
tolerate mosquitoes.
there you go. But if given a chance, I'm swatting him. I'm smashing him. So
Yeah.
we're past tolerant, right? It's understanding. It's acceptance, right? And what children of the global majority need, what adults of the global majority need, from community members, from parents, from caregivers, we need co-conspirators.
That part. Yeah.
We need people in the work with us saying, I hear you. When people of the global majority tell you about their experiences, believe them. Believe them. And then ask, what do you need for me to do to support you? Ask. Because we don't want white saviorism either. Like, oh, I'm jumping in, I'm doing this. Ask me how I can support you. So what the schools and educators need, we need help, we need support, we need donations, and we need bringing your knowledge, your culture in to support the learning for everybody. Yeah. We need you with us in the trenches, not doing something to us, but something with us. And that's the work of embracing equity. When we're in cohorts and learning with adults, we're with them.
Yeah. Like arm in arm as co-conspirators. And when we talk about donations and we talk about grants, I'm a big advocate for unrestricted funds.
Unrestricted. Yep. Here, take it, do what you need to do. I've told you the help that I need, do it. Or guess what? Just write a check and send it. Yeah. I encourage everyone, write a check.
Yeah. Also, just looking at people who are doing the work already. Yes. There are people who are probably doing great programs and are having great impact already, that are doing great things. And how do you even connect people with those so they can replicate it in different cities and or even places that already have great community trust, and are already embedded, right?
Yes. And I want to be careful, because I said write a check and send it. I do believe that that's important. But remember, the biggest thing we need you to do is to be co-conspirators. We want you in the work with us, right? Not just sending off the check. Like, that's important. We need that as well.
Yes.
But we want you to link arms with us in the work. Yes.
Yeah. So after you send a check, show us, how do you do the taxes? How do you do the books? How do I grow sustainability in those programs? How do I build that team? Those types of things are also so needed when it comes to this work. I'm also, I think you kind of did go into how early childhood programs can go beyond superficial approaches to DEI, because I think there are a lot of equity toolkits and things like that going on. And I think we have been kind of talking about lasting change, but I'm kind of wondering about your work with the leadership residency program at Embracing Program. If you can, at Embracing Equity. Can you tell our listeners about that? What is your leadership residency program that you have going on there at your organization?
Yes. So what we do is we work with, it's a year-long residency. Year-long. We work with organizations, and we ask for 3 leaders from every organization. And the very first thing that we do is we do an equity audit. We ask the adults in the organization, so we're going to focus on equity. Before we get into setting goals and doing more work, how are we doing? And we believe there are 3 ways to transformative change, because our goal is to have transformative change. We walk shoulder to shoulder with you for a year to begin to create this transformative change. The first lever of transformative change is personal and professional development. What personal and professional development within this organization do we need? Have we already started, or are we missing, right? So we ask questions about that. The second lever is culture and climate. What is a part of this current culture and climate that says we are creating an equitable anti-racist organization. And the third lever is structures and systems. What structures and systems are in place or are missing that doesn't lead us to the transformative change? So we do an equity audit for in those three areas of your people, your colleagues, the people who work at the organization. And then we walk together over the year to set goals and actualize those goals. Now, here's the thing. You're not going to be able to actualize them in a year with us, but we give you the tools and we start with personal. Remember, I said you got to start here. Here's something that we realize. Most people, you know what they want to do? They want to start with the structures and systems.
Yeah.
They want to say, okay, let's look at the policies. But what they forget is their people are advancing those policies, or worse, deciding not to advance those policies.
Yeah.
With the organization. So we say, we're going to get there. We're going to get to the structures and systems, but let's start with the inner work with the adults first. And we have coaching for them. They get one-on-one coaching from me about this journey and about their leadership journey. We do a leadership assessment. We show them, here are your strengths as a leader. And we show them how to utilize those strengths in this journey, in the goal setting. It is such an amazing program. We actually just wrapped a year-long leadership residency only for the greater Twin Cities. And we're about to launch another one for the greater Twin Cities. So we listen, we're showing up, y'all, because guess what? Minnesota has said, this is important to us. Yeah. We want to do this work. So coming soon, we're going to do, and actually our next one, because what we heard back from our Minnesota organizations that we just wrapped yesterday was, we need more time. So it's actually going to be an 18-month leadership residency. We are building a coalition of the willing in Minnesota in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can see us needing that here. You know, when I'm even thinking about, you know, I love that you're starting with the personal and professional development, because if you don't have the buy-in from community, from people, you know, change always begins with you, you know. Yeah. If you don't believe that you can do this, or if you're not thinking that you can want to, if you don't want to, it's not going to happen, you know. If you don't think you can, no one can really convince you if you don't have that small little bit of hope.
Exactly. And so, Andrea, I'm going to push here. What the leadership residency aims to do, we don't want buy-in. We want ownership.
There it is. Okay.
Ownership. That's what the leadership residency aims to do, is to get real ownership into this work. And don't get me wrong, it's hard. Yeah. This work is not easy at all. So definitely.
How are organizations coming into your sphere? Like, how are they finding Embracing Equity? Is it recommendations? Or like, how are they finding you all?
Yes, I mean, you know, we are a virtual organization. The work is done virtually, right? And so some people are listening to radio stations such as yours. Right now, that partnership that we had in Minnesota is through United Way, the 80x3, which is what we talked about. 80% of the brain is formed by 3, right?
Yep.
So people are hearing about us, finding out about us. We're out at conferences. And again, you don't have you don't have to just be a school or a childcare center. We're working with Think Small, lots of CICC, lots of organizations in Minnesota right now who are supporting early childhood and saying, this is the work that we need to get done. Yeah. This is the work that helps us with the underpinnings. This is the work that gives us the foundation to build upon. And so, you know, of course, absolutely reach out to us at www.embracingequity.org. You can, we have on there, you can get a, make inquiries, and we'll do a session with you to say, okay, what are your pain points and how can we support you in that? Also go there to our coaching page. You can get a free coaching session with me.
Wow.
A free 30-minute coaching session so I can coach you and talk to you and listen to you about, what challenges you are faced with. And I just coach you and say, try this. And here's a place that you might go. We have cohorts that we do of learning for organizations. So many things that we do. Here's what we know. This work is too hard to do alone.
Yeah, it is. And
It's too big. It's too big to do alone. And so we are here to help organizations with the work.
And what advice do you have for educators who feel overwhelmed by the prospect of even just implementing DEI practices into their early childhood practice? Maybe they're the only ones, because sometimes you are, and that's a reality.
That's a reality. You are the only one. I will say it again. You think you are. You're probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Find your coalition of the willing, who's willing to start with you. Do the self-work, and again, sometimes you can do it simultaneously, but a lot of people have said to us, just give us a toolkit. Just give us some lessons to do with the kids. But if we haven't transformed ourselves first, so invest in you. Invest in doing your work. We also have a Teaching for Equity micro-credential, right? It's an asynchronous lessons that you can do, the top 10 high leverage lessons and things you can do. But we actually say to most people, don't start there, right? You can. But if you're not doing the self-work, it's just going to be a lesson plan that you're doing. So do the work. Find your coalition of the willing at your space. And if you don't have anybody at your space, where is a colleague of yours that may not be working in your space? Find that, and find organizations like Embracing Equity who's ready to link arms with you to help you and support you in this big work.
I love it so much. Listeners, if you're just tuning in, this is our Little Moments Count segment. I'm lucky enough to be talking with Dr. Nicole Evans, who's the Senior Director of Leadership at Embracing Equity. And we're just going to take our last station break. I can't believe how fast this conversation has been rolling, but she's given us some good food this morning. So we'll be back in about 30 seconds after this station break. And welcome back to The Narrative here on KRSM Radio, where we're amplifying the voices, stories, cultures, and conversations that are happening in your neighborhood. I'm your host, Andrea Pierre. We're doing our Little Moments Count segment with Dr. Nicole Evans, the Senior Director of Leadership at Embracing Equity, and we're just learning all about their work doing DEI, and that stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, talking about the window, mirror, and sliding door, and how you can do those three transformative changes of personal, professional development, culture and climate, structures, and systems. And that's something that I'm going to take with me today, because, it does start with you, right? I'm taking that with me.
Yes, take it.
I'm taking that, Dr. Evans. Like, I love that.
Take it. Andrea, I want one thing before.
Oh, did I say something wrong? Uh-oh.
No.
No, okay.
Before we get to break, you asked me a question. You're like, man, and it occurred to me, I needed to speak to this. You said some teachers are like alone. They're in the classroom.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we do this leadership residency.
Okay.
Teachers are excited. They're on fire. They're ready. And they hit a wall because the leadership is not there, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we start in the leadership residency. We do, our cohorts are for teachers. The leadership residency is also for a teacher leader. It doesn't have to be the top leader, but we do encourage organizations. I want your decision makers, because we are going to be looking at structures and systems, policies and procedures. We are going to be looking at culture, and the culture and climate of the organization, right? So to your point, no, you didn't say anything wrong. You actually said something super important, right? This is in support of teachers, which is in support of children. I want to keep going back. Our mission and vision, ultimately, our vision is to create an environment where children and adults can thrive within the organization. That's our mission, right? And so I wanted to speak to that. That's one of the key components of the leadership residencies. We got to start at the leaders. We've got to start at the leadership position, the decision makers, right? So that teachers who are ready, willing, and able don't have that feeling of, I got this, I want to do this, I want to do that, and they're being met by resistant leaders.
Yeah. And I know that this question is not necessarily on my question list or anything like that, but I do know that when we talk about climate and culture, we are, it's election year, and there's a climate in this country. We talk about culture and climate. You're in St. Louis. I'm in Minneapolis. We both dealt with, horrific things in our communities when it comes to the murder of Black men. And, I don't know. I think that we are in this election season and DEI is under attack. We've seen a lot of Black women leaders lose their jobs recently in 2024 here. And you're in this field. And I just wanted to get a temperature check even for you about what do you feel about this field and what's going on. And it's okay. Like, I don't know. Whatever you feel comfortable just saying about how things are going for you,
Yes, I think you're right. I talk about this often. When the death of people of color, of people of the global majority happens, we're all at attention. And I call it, even George Floyd's death, I call it the 2020 summer of anti-racism. Mm-hmm. It was like, people were waking up, and people of the global majority is like, this has been our life for generations and generation, right upon generation. And so now here it is. It's sort of out of fashion now. There's like, DEI, we don't really need that. DEI folks who have positions are losing those positions. The research is showing that they're getting rid of those positions and not funding them anymore. And so I think the call needs to come from everybody. That's why I'm saying we need our co-conspirator. The call needs to say, we still need this work. Yeah. This work is still important. We need folks who are of the global majority to thrive within our organizations. And in order to do that, we need to be intentional, right? We're intentional about the things. There's PD around whatever your organization finds valuable, right? What you put priority on, right, is that we need DEI statements not to just be beautiful statements on the wall. We need to figure out, how are we living into that? How is it showing up practically every day within this organization? And for folks of color, we need to speak up. For people of the global majority, what I ask and teach my leaders and support my leaders in doing is something called compassionate accountability. I'm going to be compassionate about it, but I need you to be accountable to the experience that I'm having within this organization. Yes. I need you to be accountable for those who are coming behind me in this organization. I need you to be accountable to the clients of this organization and the experience that they are having with us when they experience with us. So compassionate accountability is something that Embracing Equity talks about and encourages and supports people in being able to name for themselves.
I love it. Yes. Thank you so much for answering that. And, this leadership residency program at Embracing Equity, I'm just wondering, like, how does it address specific challenges of implementing DEI in Montessori and just even other early childhood education models? Because there's a lot of issues, I feel like, with certain models of the educational system. And I'm not an educator. Well, I think I am an educator myself. I feel like everyone is an educator of their own, but I'm not like trained, of course. I don't have a degree in education.
Right.
But if you deal with community and children, we're all educators, as you said earlier in the show. But yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I talked about earlier on was data. Yeah. We collect the real data and to then begin to set goals upon real experiences that people have. Within our equity audit, we collect two types of data. Quantitative, we ask questions and they give us the numbers back. But we also ask qualitative data. Give us a quote. Give us an example. Why do you say this? Because what I find is stories, people's experiences will help you know where to start in this work. It will help you know where to go on this journey. When I was a principal here in St. Louis of the Montessori school, one of the things that we did, we actually had a listening session. We invited all of the parents of the global majority or parents with children of the global majority, right? We invited them and we said, because you know what we said? We are a Montessori A-bar school. Everybody knows that. As the principal, I began. So after, let me put this in order. So we kind of was like, yep, we've said that, we've named that, everybody knows. If you look on our website, you'll understand that.
Yep.
And so we said, well, and so we didn't have the data though. So we invited our parents up and we said, how you doing? How you doing with this? And you know what they said? Y'all doing all right. We said, what do you mean? We had not listened to those voices. So sometimes you need the voices from within and you need the voices of those who you are working with to help guide you on the journey. Here's what I know, Andrea. There's no blueprint for this work.
Yeah.
But we figure it out together. Here's what I know, too. I'm making this word up. I know I'm making it up. You can't determine, when you're determined, hey, how do you feel welcome? You can't ask the welcomer, which was the school. You have to ask the welcomee. I think that's the word I'm making up. I'm pretty sure that's not the word, right? We have to really get real data around the experiences folks, particularly of the global majority, were having in our school.
What feedback did they give you? I'm kind of curious, Dr. Evans.
They said, okay, yeah. Some of the feedback was, you know, when you do meetings, you're having parent meetings during the day and you're working, you're leaving us out. Some of it was even down to, which we were like, oh, wow. It was even down to, and when you do have meetings and fundraisers, they were like, your fundraisers, a fundraiser we had at the time was a wine and cheese fundraiser. They were like, that doesn't, I don't identify with that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not
culturally relevant or whatever.
That's not. I'm not going to say to my friends, give to a wine and cheese fundraiser. I'm just not, right?
Yeah.
Even some things at our meetings, because in Montessori and in a lot of early, it's like healthy eating, which is fine. But they're like, can we have a breakfast with coffee and donuts? Does it always have to be bagels or this or that? Like it was, they were giving us even, here's how we don't feel welcome. Yeah. Here's why we don't show up to things that you say we need you and your input. So we had to go back and figure out what really does even, that's just simple, rolling the red carpet out. What does that really even mean? How are we welcoming? Even the other piece that they said was, if you want us to come to a meeting, ask. And so what I would do at dismissal, I go to the car and I say, Mama Jones, I'm having a meeting. I need you. All right, Dr. Evans, since you asked, I'm coming. Aww. They wanted more personal touches. And I find that in my community, in the Black community, if you come and ask me, and I'm not generalizing, I'm talking about my experience. If you come to me and you ask me, Andrea, you're like, hey, Dr. Evans, I need you to show up here. I'm coming. Yeah. Because I feel you really want me. Not that sending the email blast, the note home to everybody is the wrong thing to do. But what else makes me know that you want me? Yeah. So I started showing up at the pickup line. Yep. And everybody, to me, I found Mama John. Everybody was Mama and Papa or Grandma. I started greeting everybody in the morning and being there at dismissal. And some people are like, oh, the principal doesn't have time for that. I made time to make those connections.
But what a great way to build community and connection, not only with the parents, but also with the students, and just to feel cared. I feel people feel cared for when you take those moments to greet them, Dr. Evans. I appreciate you sharing that. I just love it. I love the personalization of that. And it does show that just each community does have their own way of communication, and their own culture of communication. And I think that's something also that DEI can often miss. You get so many different emails from schools that you do not always read them.
No. And that personal touch isn't there. Here's a quote that I live by. Communication is the root of all problems, yet it's the source of all solutions.
Okay.
Talk to people.
I wish you were my teacher growing up, Dr. Evans. I needed you in my life.
Talk to people. Understand their stories. That is critical.
Yes. So embracing equity, I know that you're doing work already here in Minnesota. What else? Do you have anything else going on there? Like, how can, if someone's listening from another organization, how can they get a hold of you or look up what you all have going on?
Yes. Head over to our website, www.embracingequity.org. We also do monthly free webinars on different topics. Sign up for it. And if you can't be there at the time, no worries. We send you the recording later. In fact, if you head over to our website and click on our resources, all of our past webinars are there. We talk about all of these topics, different topics that are available to people. We want to be your research source. We want to share with you, and we want to walk with you on this journey. Like I said, sign up for a free coaching session with me. If you want to have a free 30-minute session with me, and if you want us to walk with you and your organization on your learning journey, come check us out. Come work with us. Come talk with us, and we are there for you. I know it sounds like we're about to wrap here. I just want to give, if possible.
Oh yeah, you got time.
Okay. I definitely want folks to have 5 things to think about, 5 steps to really go to those first 1,000 days of a child's life, right? Thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? For parents, caregivers, and educators. Number 1, create an inclusive environment in your, and then I'll give details about that. Diverse materials. Remember, I talked about the books and the materials, the cowrie beads for counting things in the classroom, cultural celebrations, invite your families in, invite other organizations in, create an inclusive environment. Number 2, emphasize equity in access, right? What does each child need? That's what I love about Montessori. It follows each child, but you don't have to have a Montessori setting to do that. How does this child need to access the learning, right? Number 3, promote respect and empathy. That's the window's mirror. It might not be your mirror, but it's a window. You're looking out to someone else's culture. Teach those social justice concepts early and often. Fairness, kindness, justice. There's so many beautiful and wonderful literature out there. And then promote it within the classroom as children are interacting with one another. And that's where the adults need to model that as well. Number 4, engage your families and the community. That's woven through all of these, right? Bring those, do parenting workshops, caregiver workshops, cultural programs, communities, resources that support diversity, equity, inclusion. And number 5 is what I said, is what we do. Continual reflection and learning for the adults. The adults have to keep going on your learning journey. And as you're on your learning journey, here's the part: adapt and evolve.
I love it.
We've got to change adults. We can't say, well, that's how I've done. That's my thought process. That's how I was raised to believe. Yeah, we were raised to believe some harmful things from people who we love, right? I remember some messages that I received from family members that I believed was true and thought was true. And when I learned differently, I said, okay. Uncle Bob did teach me that, but I've learned something different. I'm going to adapt and evolve and change that mindset for myself first. And then I might go back and have a brave conversation with Uncle Bob, right?
Yep.
Adapt and evolve. So those are the 5 steps. Create an inclusive environment, emphasize equity and access, individualize things there, promote respect and empathy, windows, mirrors, sliding doors, engage the families and community, bring them in, and for the adults, continual reflection and learning.
No fear. You are fearless. You are just so talented and just, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. And it's www.embracingequity.org for more information, just to learn more about Dr. Evans' work. Thank you so much, Dr. Nicole Evans, for all that you're doing, Senior Director of Leadership there. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I look forward to more working with Minnesota.
Thanks for listening to the Little Moments Count radio podcast in partnership with community radio stations throughout Minnesota. You can find the Little Moments Count radio podcast wherever you get your podcasts and at littlemomentscount.org/podcast.